Hi everyone, here's the Chemist once again, and I've been rereading some Dashiell Hammett recently. I will be reading, I think, the Maltese Falcon very soon, still have to check that out. And I've reread Red Harvest, which of course is a classic of hard-boiled detective fiction. You don't need me to tell you that. The more you read this kind of book, the more you realize the genius behind it. Both on the level of plot, the way this book is plotted is marvelous, it's amazing, it's the kind of complex that when you first read this book, I mean, if you get everything that's going on, if you get all of the relationships between the characters and the whole order in which people are murdered in this book, then you're a better reader than me. I had to stop at certain times and to remind myself, okay, who is this guy who's just been whacked and whose murder is apparently a big deal. And also because, of course, of the psychological characterization of this thing, it's a genius achievement. When it comes to those two things, the great plot and the psychological characterization, I probably think that Hammett shines more with the psychology of the whole thing. The plot, Red Harvest's plot is great and has a few brilliant twists, but you do not quite get those mind-blowing, unimaginable plot twists you get, for instance, in Raymond Chandler, probably his main opponent to the title of, best hard-boiled detective novelist of all times. As far as the psyche is concerned, the way this book explores the way the mind of people change when they are faced with daily violence, with a climate where the life of people and life in general becomes meaningless, becomes value without any value. That's brilliant. The way it explores how all of these things poison people. Of course, Poisonville, the city at the heart of the book. That whole idea that it's a place that turns people into basically monsters. It's great. It's explored in a very sinister way. At certain times this book almost has the quality of a horror novel, of the kind of morbid narrative you will find, for instance, in people such as Bret Easton Ellis several decades later, American Psycho, but even without that kind of exaggeration in stuff such as Less Than Zero. It's great. The whole characterization is great. There are so many brilliant characters in this book, even though there are also a shitload of characters in this book. And it is a stereotype that, the setting in a specific book is part of the characters, but it's true sometimes, and it is definitely true here. Personville is probably the most relevant, the most important character in the book, and it has that same vibe, even though it's a 1920s American town. It has the vibe of a Wild West outpost, of a place where, you can get shot anytime you visit the saloon to get a drink. And the main character in this book does get a lot of drinks in the 200 odd pages it takes him to get to the end. Again, unlike in Chandler, you do not quite get those crucial moments of lyrical beauty that shine through the prose despite the gruesome topic the book deals with, or some people would argue precisely because the whole hard-boiled detective genre betrays a sort of naivete in the way you approach the world, and the fact that all of these hard-boiled writers were basically confronted with a bleak reality that didn't collided brutally with the whole American dream, and so they retreated in a sort of a fake macho outlook on life. All of that is awfully complicated, but it's not difficult to see how the whole hard-boiled genre sort of betrays in its approach at life, as in, there's no law, there's no justice, be it in America, be it in the world. Everyone's looking out for themselves. It kind of betrays a conviction that things should be different than how they actually are, and that justice and law and all these things should theoretically exist. And some readers construct Hammett as a socialist. He was a political activist all his life. Some readers construct this book as sort of a socially engaged book. I wouldn't go that far. I didn't pick that up in this book, but it definitely is a portrayal of how awfully things go when people live without any law, and when people only fear, violence, basically, and so they are driven to violence themselves to look out for themselves. Going back to what I think I wanted to say, there are no moments of lyrical beauty in this book. like you find, for instance, in Chandler, most notably. There's maybe one, maybe two speeches in here which are memorable and you may want to, you know, underline in red pencil, but that said, is not like the book or the plot revolves around a single element, a single plot twist. It's a much more continuous type of experience. It flows very well. It might appear that it ends quite abruptly, and I remember when I was, you know, when I was like 5 pages close to the end, I was like, okay, my book is going to miss a piece, because the book was still in the middle of the action and I was very close to the conclusion. That's probably, it only serves the narrative purpose, because there's no, you know, bullshit in the end, there's no closure chapter. The whole thing is wrapped up with a single paragraph, which is among the most amazing endings I've ever read. I'll let you discover it by yourself. It's of course a classic of the genre. If you're interested in, you know, mystery, detective fiction, this is, you probably already know this book. If you don't, in general, if you're interested in good narrative, this is a great example of how brilliant detective fiction can be. It's one of the, you know, it's among the best works in the genre I personally have read, and it's not like I'm an expert or whatever. Do read it. Let me know what you think about Hammett, what you think about the Maltese Falcon, if you think it's better than this one. Again, I'll probably be reading it before the end of the year. Let me know whatever passes through your mind in the comments below. Thank you for watching once again, guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.